just the sound of the pressure of the refrigerant going into the oil. You can open, just crack it open, that's good enough. Now start it up. No.
You have to leave it for 20 seconds.
While you start it. Leave it open while you start it.
Open it.
Leave it open. No. That's good for 50 seconds. That's all. We're not getting any oil out of there. That's good.
It's making a gargle noise.
Now, as it pulls the vacuum, you can see from the compound gauge. The compound gauge shows vacuum and pressure. It's going into the red part. And the deeper the vacuum, the more it's going to head towards 30. 30 inches of vacuum is actually a perfect vacuum, and there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum. But that's going to read 30. It's going to look like it is. It's not really going to be 30. It's just that that's not that. These gauges are not that accurate to read a vacuum, but it does tell us that it's in a vacuum. So now we just wait some more.
How long?
That depends on the system and how many
if we were really
liquid you have
pulling
there.
a deep vacuum, it'd probably be a couple of hours. And if we were out in the field doing this, if it were safe to leave it alone, you know, without worrying about someone stealing it, we would maybe put it in between the unit and the wall and go do another service. Because a deep vacuum is going to take a couple of hours at least. And to do a deep vacuum, we would put on a micron gauge, which we have to measure the vacuum. A deep vacuum is, well, according to the EPA, it's considered 500 microns. We like to pull a deeper one, if we can, to 250 microns. In the case of a vacuum measured in microns, the lower the number, the deeper the vacuum. Probably have to add a little bit more to make sure it's fully charged. So, how much did we take out? Almost 4 pounds?
It was 33 points.
So we're going to want, see, you got to turn it on when this is off. Otherwise it's going to start out at 0. If you come and you find that the pressure is low, once you've established that the airflow is good, remember the airflow's got to be good before you go by what your gauges say. If you determine that it's low on refrigerant, sometimes it's okay to charge it without looking for a leak. And what I do is I'll find an inconspicuous spot on the condensing unit. I'll write the date and how much pressure I found in it when I came to it, so that if I do get a call back, I know about how fast it's leaking. If it leaks to the point where it stops cooling once a year or once every couple of years, maybe I would just come back every year, every 2 years. But it's only lasting a couple months, you want to find the leak.
How you fix the leak?
How do you what?
How you fix the leak?
If it's copper, you can braze it, but you got to do it carefully because most of them are thin wall copper, not like the copper we do in the shop. The copper we do in the shop is, what is it, K-wall or L? I always forget. Anyhow, it's a thicker copper. Some condensing units do use the thicker copper, but some use a very thin, so you got to be talking about 1,000 degrees here, so this is going to be way above the boiling point, and any moisture that's captured over the years is going to be released back into the system. So you never want to...
Take a hacksaw and hack it off.
Yeah, well, you should use a tubing cutter. And if it's close to the ground, you would use a mini tubing cutter.
Both sides?
What's that?
You cut both sides?
Yeah, cut it on both sides. Usually there's enough play in the line to put it back in. If you have to, you got to add a piece of copper. But you don't want to heat that up.
Yeah.
Because anything that is captured, acid, moisture, it'll be released back into the system if you heat it up.
You heat it up when you put it back, right?
Well, yeah, when you put it back, you do, sure. You got to sweat it back in.
Yeah.
But there is no moist, so you can do it.
But that'll be a brand new fresh dryer, so you don't need to worry about it. And when you do put the new one in, you try to put the flame not going that way. You can't always help it. Sometimes you have to, because if you do it that way, it'll burn away some of the paint, which doesn't do immediate harm, but this paint helps prevent it from rusting. So you want to try to hit your flame that way, away from the dryer body. Sometimes you don't have a choice. It's a real tight spot, and sometimes you just got to do it that way. Now we want to charge it at first with, well, not at first. We want to charge it with liquid. This is the liquid side because it's got a dip tube that goes to the bottom.
It says liquid right there.
So you have to
Yeah.
flip it over?
It does say liquid? Yeah. No, when it's got a liquid port, you don't have to flip it over. If we wind up having to add a little bit from another jug, then we're gonna have to flip it over. Now, these are closed, so you can open that up. Open that valve up. So now you got refrigerant all the way. Now you got refrigerant in the hose. But also, as soon as you took that off, it took air into the hose, right? We want to get that air out, and you do that by loosening that just a little bit.
No.
That, yeah, the hose, until you hear a little bit of refrigerant come out. That's called purging the hose, because there's going to be air in there.
Which is de minimis, right?
Yeah. You're allowed to purge hoses.
Okay.
Ready?
You have to purge hoses.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll get a little bit of air in the system, and the whole point of pulling a vacuum is to get the air out of the system. So now you got nothing but refrigerant in here. Now, we want to put it into the liquid side only. And it actually wouldn't hurt to put it in the suction side, but it's safer to put it in the liquid side.
Liquid side is the red
Open
one.
that up all the way, and you'll hear it, the red one. Open it up all the way, you'll hear it flow in. Did we open? Yeah, we opened that. And the weight should go down. If it should get to, what was it, 29 and a half,
Yep.
we'll shut that off. But in the meantime, we'll just let it flow in. You can hear it going in.
Yeah, you can see the thing shooting up.
Yeah. And you can see that little vibration in the line too. This line's probably gonna be cold because it's going into the liquid line. Well, it's gonna be cold on both sides because it's not running, so it's gonna be going both directions.
So the system don't have to be on to charge up?
What's that?
The system don't have to be on to charge up?
No, not after you pull a vacuum. You can put liquid in the liquid side, it's a lot quicker. When you charge it up with it running, you're going into the low side, and that takes a little bit more time. Well, it takes a lot more time, actually.
It's better to do it off.
We put the other disconnect in, and this is gonna start up. And I have to speak louder because I'm gonna have to shout over it. Air coming out of there, did it come on?
Yes, it's on.
Okay. Now, crack this open just slightly, because we don't want a full flow of liquid, we want to let it flash up. The liquid is going to be coming through this hose, into the manifold, out this hose, into the low side. That's good, that's good. Now let that flow for a little while, and we'll see until that gets to 29 and a half or so. Cool environment here. So we need, that's about 100, that's about, well, it's about 120. Each notch is 5. So we need another, not 5 pounds of refrigerant, but 5 pounds of pressure. So I'm gonna go get the other jug. This is a weird one. Usually it comes on with a speaker. This one comes on in mute, and you gotta, I just had it. I'll let a little bit out over here. I don't want to do it on the system. We got a leak there. The light starts flashing, these start going up, and the sound increases almost to a siren. Now, what you don't want to do, especially if you're checking the evaporator, you know you got that pan under it that's got condensate water in it. You don't want to let water in here, or oil, because that can ruin this tip. And these tips can be expensive. So you want to make sure, it does have a little filter in here, but it's not really much of a filter. So you really don't want to get water in here. This has got, actually I'm not sure if this model does, but many of them, the ones I like, have a little pump in here that sucks the air in. So if you get it in water, it's going to pretty much ruin it.
It's the red one.
Yeah, tighten that back up. I should have tightened that. So, you know, if you
We're talking about oils, but how can we put the oil in the system, or is already mixed with the
if you
refrigerator?
lose oil, I mean, you gotta lose a ton of oil before you have to put oil back in the system. You almost never.
Okay, worst case scenario.
What's that?
Worst case scenario, we have to put
Worst case scenario, you'd open it up and pour it in, or use a pump to put it in the suction line.
Oh, okay.
If you put it in the suction line, that's gonna go right into the compressor where you want it.
Okay.
And there are pumps, little hand pumps that you can carry with you. It'll pump the oil into the gauge port, and it'll go into the compressor.
Thank you.
But